Thank you so much for coming on our podcast. I've known you for quite some time. I've always admired what you're done, your energy that you bring in. Thank you. But before we get started, maybe I'll ask you to just kind of give a brief intro so people know who Mark Mayada is and the energy behind him.
Well, Mark Maena, president of Y Prime, here for 10 years, been in the clinical space for, what's it, 30 years. It's crazy. But the honor is mine. Yes, we've known each other for quite some time. I'm a believer in entrepreneurs. It makes the world go round, and what you're building is going to help a lot of people. And we need entrepreneurs in this world, those who are willing to take risks, put their money where their mouth is, put their reputation where their mouth is, and you're building something really cool. So it's really great to be with you. I got a lot of respect for you. So we should have some fun.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. So before we dive too deep, quick question. If clinical trials were a movie genre, what would they be? Drama, thriller, documentary, or horror?
Drama. How
What
about
do you
that? Thriller and drama combined.
A little bit of both?
Yeah, because it's like a thriller is this ability to, like you, an entrepreneur, have this concept and this hope. And can we find, as a community, can we find something that can help the world? And if we can't find someone that can help the entire world, can we find something that can help some people? My rest his soul, my wife of 30 years, grandfather passed a good handful of years ago. Long life, 96 years old. And when we were helping clean out the house, I found a pack of cigarettes. And the cigarettes had some funky stuff in it. And on it, on the box, it was, you're supposed to smoke this if you have asthma. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, my goodness gracious, have we come a long way, where decades and decades and decades ago, and people died from it.
Yeah.
This group, this industry, our forefathers and mothers before us, and all of us who've taken on the torch, have put forth an effort to eradicate disease. Not all disease, but disease that people died from decades ago. People don't die from it anymore. So that's the thriller. It is, we're going to look back when we retire and we're going to be able to say, you know what? I did a really small part in helping people that taken this drug. Like, we have the ability to help a father walk down the aisle with his daughter because of the work that we're doing to help get a drug to market. We have the ability, if we do well, for that mother to be able to take a drug and dance with her son at the wedding. The work we do, if we can get the products out in the most efficient and effective way, have the ability for that grandparent to take another trip with their grandkids. Epic proportions. That's the thriller. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The most special group of people that are trying to work together. And the better we do it, the more impact we have. And everyone in this industry is a hero. We're not going to be thankful. We're not going to be on TV, but you are a hero because you are helping people live better and stopping them from dying soon.
Yes. And it takes,
That's the burden we carry. That's the thriller. The
Totally
drama is all the moving parts, and things never really go right all the time. So that's why I would say it would be a drama. It's a hell of a question, though.
so you've been at Y Prime now for 10 years. When you look at the industry, given the drama and the thriller put together, right? We've seen a lot, right? From decentralized wearables, COA, digital biomarkers come and go. What do you feel is going to feel different 5 years from now?
Yeah. So there's always since I've been in this space, there's this push and pull around great entrepreneurs like yourself trying to create service or technology that is just pushing the envelope farther. And because we're such a regulated industry and cautious, and we have literally potentially people's lives on the line, as an industry, we don't adopt things fast. So there are a lot of great ideas, most likely, that were there and then died because the industry just wasn't ready for it. And that's entrepreneurs like you to kind of have to decide, what's the hit and what's the miss. So I think the biggest game changer is AI. And what's going to feel different is the ability to create something that wasn't here before. And especially on the tech side, what AI is doing, and we're starting as an industry to use, more and more of it. And I think the more comfortable and educated people get, you're going to see how powerful it is. But for instance, with us as a tech company, there is a big barrier to entry because you have to have developing skills and understand that world and testing skills. There's a point where creative people are going to create incredible technology and they're not technical because AI is going to do it. Now it's going to be how quick, instead of taking 3 years to build some incredible, crazy platform, you might be able to do it in 3 months.
And I think some of it is already happening, right? I think AI is here to stay. I just don't know that AI is for everything, right? I think we have to be careful where we inject AI. I mean, AI has been around for a long time, right? I mean, as we hit the conference roads, everybody's selling nothing but AI. We're actually personally staying away from trying to sell AI. Yeah, we have AI here, but we use it to power what we already do. But I don't feel like I have to go out there and sell another AI tool because you know what? It's kind of muddies the water for everybody. And then people start questioning, well, what really works and what really doesn't work. So I agree with you. AI is we're definitely kind of seeing it from protocol creations and sites, things of that nature. But I feel like we have to be careful. How much deeper do we dive into AI? I don't want it to be like another DCT world or another digital biomarker world that just kind of lives for a couple of years and then dies, my fear of that, of AI, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's not, your opinion isn't crazy. And I think there's a lot of people that I think there's a lot of people on the side of the feds that say, hey, listen, slow down. We don't want to make this, hey, we invest all this money and time into it and never goes anywhere. Then there's the other side of the fence that's like, holy cow. I mean, this thing's so powerful. And although it's been around, it hasn't, for the most part, most of us, not the ones in the back room, the super, super, super technical, big strategic technical people. It's, the kind of the normalized group in the world still have to get comfortable with the understanding. How do you apply it? But they're still, it's like, holy cow, this is really, really, really good. I don't see that there's a lot of people in the middle.
Yeah, yeah.
Either you think it's not going to stay and be great, then it's holy cow, you got to start to use this stuff. Here's what we do know. And why I think those who understand it and can use it appropriately will probably move ahead, depending on the service and technology, versus the others who may lag behind, because clinical trials continue to get more complex. I mean, our whole world has been trying to advance technology to simplify things, but the whole clinical trial process is continuing to get really complex. And these protocols are really heavy. A lot of them are just really hard. And then the amount of data we collect now compared to 15 years ago is astronomical.
Mhm.
So if you have the ability and the knowledge to understand how you can leverage some of that AI capability to take hours and days and months off your analysis and predictability, you wonder if that's going to allow us to get through this clinical trial process quicker to ultimately get better data to get into somebody sooner. That's kind of like the holy grail.
Yep,
But I think
exactly.
that it'd be, especially in this space, it's still going to be, a while. But even if we could break it down to the most simplest terms, I mean, the most important people in our industry really are project managers, whether that's on the pharma side, the tech service side, the non-tech service side. I mean, they make everything stick and go together, but there's so much paperwork in so much volume of data that if we can help and use some technology to help them not have to have their eyes and ears and fingers and all this data and have that analysis be done, where then they can focus on what they're great at, which is managing the inputs and outputs in the process, I bet you experiences will be even better. Because when things go awry in our space, it's really painful. So that's my goal, that we can reduce pain, become more efficient. It's not for everybody, but we could use some of those tools, for people to use some of those tools to leverage efficiency and insight,
Exactly.
then I think we could be all right.
Yeah. Mark, given COA has been core of what you guys do, when we talk about COA, a lot of people think of COA as just a digital diary. What do they misunderstand about it and what it actually does in a clinical trial?
Yeah, sometimes I wish code was just a simple,
Yeah, and I will.
just really simple of just, anybody could do it and kind of get through it. There's a huge difference between kind of a homegrown diary where you have a group of people at an organization say, hey, listen, we want to gather this information, compared to a validated, highly scientific instrument where the series of questionnaires have gone through a rigorous scientific process that says if 100 people fill this thing out correctly, the net result is going to be scientifically accurate to then be able to say, your process, your drug is impacting this. And it's, when I'm home and I'm with my friends and I'm trying to explain to them what E-code is, they all say, you've built a company around SurveyMonkey. And you're like, man, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. So it's really hard because you have to have a tremendous amount of rigor that goes with to deliver it, that goes with the rigor of validating that instrument. And if the look and feel isn't right with hundreds of patients in hundreds of languages all over the world, it has the potential to have an impact in the data and how you wind up reading it. So there's a lot of moving parts. The biggest pain point within the industry, we have done a poor job as an industry explaining all the moving parts in eCOA and why a little more time is essential, especially on the translation side.
Mhm.
When you're doing big trials that have 10, 15, 20, 30 countries, and you're getting up to 30, 40, 50, 100 languages, you have to take this validated instrument and then you have to go out and get that translated. And you think that AI, you could just run it through AI and everything's fine, but then you have to really focus on localization and it has to be accurate. So it's a time consuming process, but it's something that AI can help move some of the parts quicker. So as you look at a forest and you see a couple trees and you're like, all the trees are the same in there, so this is kind of pretty. It's not the case. And it's very much like eCOA. It is everything, every trial is different. Every instrument's different. Every need is different. Every country is different. So there's a tremendous amount of complexities. And if you don't pick probably a little less around the technology, you just have technology to get you to a point, but it's the people that really make it easy. And it's a fascinating piece of this big, giant clinical trial puzzle that can make a trial go simple or it can create a lot of chaos.
Do we feel the sponsors are using eCOA the way it was intended?
There's a lot of layers to that. So how it was intended to be, I think, yes, you have sponsors who have their scientific background and they have their core groups of principal investigators that are experts in a particular therapeutic area. And it's not so difficult based on the data that's out here to understand what instrument you should use within a trial. So I think from that point, matching up what outcome you're looking for and can you get it through the instruments? Yes. I think the difficulty comes in when people think eCOA can be everything. And it could be the greatest patient engagement tool. It could be one of the greatest data collection tools. I think that's where things go wrong because, like, we're human, so we think we have a vehicle, and let's pack everything into the vehicle, and it becomes burdensome and complex. So, yes, I think from a scientific perspective, most do it well. The flip side, the risk is doing too much of it that is cumbersome to the patient and the site, adding a lot more things that make it even more complex, and then thinking you could spin it up really, really. It just take and from a pure build perspective, it's not all that difficult. But there's so many moving parts around translations and localizations that they really have to get their arms wrapped around. And there's one more piece to it that we do a lot of education on. Those validated instruments, someone created it. There's an owner. Someone like you, an entrepreneur, created the instrument. And to use it, you have to get their permission and called licensing. You have to get a permission and legal documents have to be signed. That takes a very long time. And if I had to pick one thing that's most often missed in ECOA,
Is that?
it's that.
Yeah.
And then people, I don't know if you've heard the term library. Do you have an ECOA library? Have you done all this stuff?
Yeah.
Candidly, probably the biggest farce in the industry. It sounds great. But when it comes to reality,
Doesn't work.
it has yet to prove over time, bell-shaped curve, that having a library all of a sudden speeds everything up. Because you could have 7 of 9 languages in the library, and those 2 languages going to slow everything down. You might as well. You could then just do 9 languages as opposed to the 2, but the length of time is still going to be an issue. And you still have to get licensing agreements from the license holder.
Yeah.
So that's the part where I think an education piece, is really important because at times it goes on a critical path.
Completely agree. So what do you feel like is the next evolution for ECOA?
Well, let's look at where the biggest pains are in the industry. Licensing's one. Don't have an answer to that. Time is the great equalizer because these license holders are not bound in their office, 9 hours a day approving. It just takes time. It's not a strike against them. It just, people have the perception that they're standing at their desk and just signing licenses. So I don't really know what a solution is for that unless people are starting to buy all the licenses from the license holders. Maybe one area that you could help to speed some stuff up. I think the biggest movement will be in the translation localization space. So instead of it taking 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, I think AI will be a part of that. That will help translations move much quicker, taking it off a critical path and looking at global go lives, which is really, really cool. I think that's a big, big piece. And then the ability to customize your software post protocol amendments. So that's a big pain in the industry. Many technologies, no study ends the way it starts. Like phase 2s have, what was that there, 3 to 5 protocol amendments before it ends, maybe more, depending on therapeutic area. Phase 3s have a couple. So
I've seen 40 amendments, man, at some points.
yeah, I mean, fair point. And it's getting worse because things are becoming more complex.
Yeah.
So, and when it relates to a technology like an ECO or an IoT or some of the other technology, you have to be able to move really quick. And in the industry as a whole, it's a painful process. It takes too long. But I think, again, the ability, everybody talks about configurable platform, sure, but eventually you have to customize some things. But I do believe that's where some additional technology and knowledge around the AI can help speed that customization up as opposed to having someone that's just constantly writing code. So I foresee that making a move over time, but the industry has to get comfortable, and ultimately the payers, which are the sponsors, have to be able to get comfortable with allowing vendors to leverage AI. We're not there yet because there's still data security that has to be proven. So I think we're still a ways away, but I think the future is really bright.
Yeah. It's coming.
Yeah.
Patient engagement is core and something very near to my heart, and you brought it up a couple of times. So thinking around the patient side of things, if someone is coming to you to present something on deck, they're showing, hey, our patient journey is seamless. You sitting down watching that deck, what actually comes to mind that like, here's what actually really happens when you tell me the patient journey is seamless? Or what have you seen that has happened?
Yeah, so this is just my own my own little nuance, maybe opposite of many others. I am I'd love to go back to the first person who created a PowerPoint and lock him in a closet for a while. I would also like to do that for the person who put the CC on all the emails. Those times. If I can go back at that point in time and get rid of the CC on the emails, which I absolutely hate, and PowerPoints, I would love to, alter that. Because I think when people are talking about a journey, and the journeys tend to be one of two things. It is a service journey, very similar to what you do. Here's how I'm making some phone calls and helping walk people through. For a technology journey, here's how the tech is going to go. You got to get it off a slide and show proof. So if I'm you selling the service piece of it, we're talking about case studies with some of the people who have purchased your service to talk about some of the journeys. That's what really matters, not what's up on a slide. Or from a technology perspective, pick someone out in the crowd and say, listen, you might be the patient. We're going to take you through this tech journey and show them, because slides, I don't know, maybe it's I'm just paranoid or I'm 56 years old and made too many mistakes and missed too many things when I purchased something. I need to be able to touch and feel it. I hate slides. I just hate slides. That would be if I'm in the audience, those are the two areas that I'm asking for proof. And I'm not saying anyone's lying, but you got to get things off the slide. And if you're talking about a journey, we should be in a room and let's go through the journey together. Let's explain this to me. Let me maneuver. I think that would sell me in a second because it gets rid of all the BS.
Yep.
You can pick up real quick on what's real and what's not.
I had so talking about player points, I had one of my advisors taught me this 3 years ago. We'd hop on a demo, spend about half an hour on slides, and he kind of pulled me aside. Leonard's like, dude, you gotta cut that. Slides, no more than 5 minutes. Next, you just gotta dive into the presentation. So what we did is we set up our slides, 5 minutes. Here's who we are. Here's what we're about to show you. And we utilize the slides as only a mechanism to tell the user, here's what to expect that you're going to see from the product or from what we're about to show you. I think it's been landing pretty well. So to your point, everything on slides, you need to see the meat, right? You need to see, does it really work? But it showed me something. So
you're right.
So diving a little bit deeper. So this is really more of a question. In a modern kind of where we are today, clinical trials, eCOA, wearable, central lab, imaging vendor, engagement tools, and CRO oversight. From your perspective, do you feel that we as an industry, are we solving a fragmentation problem or are we making it worse?
Are we solving a fragmentation problem or making it worse? I think by trying to solve it, there are companies who are trying to solve. And I think there are technical companies that are trying to say, listen, use my platform and all you folks could kind of connect in. And it sounds really simple, but it never is. There are other companies that are saying, hey, listen, come one, come all. I could do 17 different things for your organization. And by virtue of that, I think it makes it really complex because the concept makes so much sense. But if it's too good to be true, it probably is, because it's hard to do 5, 6, 7, 8 technologies and services great. And the demand is within this clinical space because we have these patients that we can literally save their lives. The demand is, I want the best of everything. And you can't have too many things and be the best of everything, right? And then you have you have service-oriented companies that are buying technology to try to help with, hey, listen, you don't need 40 contracts. We'll simplify things. We have all the expertise, but service companies and technology companies have a very different culture, and the investments are in very different places. Service companies are great about people and process, and they're great at it. But when you're investing in technology and constantly reinvesting, it's a very different way to manage the business. So that causes some additional complexity. So I think we're still unbelievably long way from defragmenting this industry. And it's probably going to get a little bit worse because again, it gets better. Listen, I am probably the least technical person in my company. So when I'm talking about AI, I'm telling you, half the people in my company would be laughing right now. But if you think of the concept of the power of AI, that I think has the potential to increase fragmentation because it lowers the barrier on a lot of things, inclusive of this space. So you can have a lot of people that are doing technical startups or other companies that are service oriented that say, listen, I don't need to go buy you X millions. I'm going to get 3 people in here that are really great at AI. We're going to build this technology. And I think it's going to make it, I think it'll make it more fragmented, which puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the sites and pharma. There's so much focus on patients. And understandably so. We should continue to look to how to drive an incredible patient experience. We have a little bit of control on that.
Yeah.
We get influence. We
I
have more control on the site. And there's not enough attention on how are we making it easier for the site because they recruit most of the patients anyway.
That's true. Yeah, and honestly, to your point, I mean, one area where we struggle sometimes is like we see technologies here to solve some pieces of the problem, but it's the continuity that gets lost. It's the patient journey, the patient experience. And then on top of that, of course, you bubble it up to sites and what the site experience is. I mean, I'm a computer science degree, and I remember the days I sit down and all I just want to do is like code, right? It just makes me feel like I'm playing games, right? But sometimes what I've learned early on is sometimes I'll build something and I don't focus on this piece, which kills the entire product, right? And I feel like we're doing a lot more of that today, where we're building all these different tools. They don't really talk to each other sometimes, but then we lose the patient experience in a lot of different ways. And, a lot of us probably say, hey, patient experience is this and that. But unless we actually get patients in the room, show them, let them use it, so that way we actually understand better what that experience looks like, I think we'll still lose it. So I think that's kind of where we're trying to kind of also find the right way to help improve that experience, that journey from a patient perspective.
Yeah, and that's why you've been successful and you continue to grow your business because you get it. I mean, our industry, especially in a tech-enabled services or tech vendor side, the people who buy aren't the people who use.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're not committed to having a UX UI team that is going to visit with sites and patients and getting feedback and getting their hands on this stuff, you're missing out a tremendous amount. And I think pharma, the buyers are really picking up on that when they see these demos. They know it's not hard to know who's committed to UX UI, who has done a lot of research around that and how they've enabled their technology to kind of live in this world. And you have to do it. I mean, everybody's you look at Google and what Microsoft has done, and they've set the standard of this should just be really natural and simple to navigate. And still a lot of tech companies haven't invested in that, which is kind of mind boggling. It should just be so simple. A user experience should just be like you're hopping on Google, you do some searches, and there's the science behind that too, but hasn't been enough.
I know we're kind of getting close to the hour, and I want to be considerate of your time. I'll ask you just a couple of different questions.
Yeah.
Today, as we're looking at data, right, we've got more data than we ever have, right? Wearables, sensors, diaries, right? Do you think we're actually generating better insights using all the data and all the complexities that we see in trials today? Or are we creating more noise? Or are you seeing a lot more of, I want this data point because it might be beneficial for me later on?
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. So here's what we talked about before, and we know that these trials are getting far more complex. And the more complex the trial is getting, it's the more data, different data that's happening. I think, 10 years ago, you need to really have these data lakes and these capabilities around looking at all the metadata in not just one trial, but all trials. And I think companies have gotten so much more advanced to that, and they're able to get more of their data much quicker to do additional analyses on that. So I've seen over the last decade, yes, the volume increase. Yes, the complexities increase. I've also seen the analysis and the speed with which they analyze the data increase. I think we are getting better data by virtue of more data at a greater depth. Do we need to get all of that? That's probably not for me to comment on. It's going to be up to pharma. But here's what I can tell you: I've over my career, not just here at Y Prime, but other places, I've sat in meetings where people were developing protocols, and everybody wants data, and it's understandable. You have everybody on that table wants to collect data. And I've seen a shift probably 3 or 4 years ago where people are now asking why. 10 years ago, no, this MD wants the data, this MD wants the data, this leadership, collect it. But now you're starting to see some changes of why do you want it and what are you going to do with it? So I think the industry has made significant improvements, but I don't think it's going to reduce the amount of data because you're getting more sophisticated on the why and the what, and the capability to collect more data is there, and the ability to get that data back quicker for analysis. I would only see that protocols collecting more data and things becoming more complex, which is interesting because the whole world is always about how do we make things simple? How do we make things less complex? But I think the clinical trials will continue to grow in complexities, but the data analysis will simplify.
So if you get someone that's actually developing a study today, what's one mistake you think they should avoid when identifying the right technology vendor?
The biggest mistake I have seen around bringing in tech vendors, and it's not the EDC stuff, that's just a different world. But if you're looking at ECO and IRT, is getting them to come in way too late. Ideally, especially around ECOA, I would almost say as you almost finish your draft protocol, get the partner in. I mean, you got to expect the partnerships, right? You're not going to do this to people you don't trust. But if you have let's say if you have any co-partner that you really trust, get them in as you're getting closer to say, listen, here's where we think our protocol is going to be and what we want to collect. How does that look from flip the switch, go live, what's happening? Because time and consulting is the ultimate power leverage. And I see many times, even with us, we literally get pulled in after everything. So then if we see things that can be much more efficient and change, it's a Herculean effort for a sponsor to go back and make those changes. Get us up for some consulting earlier. That would be my advice, to see that as a big stress point because everybody wants to hit their go live date.
Yeah.
Couple of your tech vendors in sooner.
And I agree. I think a lot of times when we talk to companies that are trying to do studies, we ask them, it's like, bring us in as you're developing your protocol. Let us give you feedback in because most of the time your feedback might be beneficial into the protocol. What devices they're going to use, how are they going to use them from a patient engagement, right? IRBs, things of that nature. So completely agree there. Mark, thank you so much. I truly appreciate your insights. Appreciate you being here. But before we shut off, I have one last question.
Wow.
Not knowing who the next person is coming on this podcast, what would be one question you would ask them? And before you answer that, the question that the last person asked was, where do you see clinical research in 10 years?
My assuming that it's going to be someone within the clinical space. and there's just so many additional streams. I would be curious to gather, based on their expertise in their stream, if they had a magic wand and they could change one thing about where they fit within the stream and what can be changed, what would it be that would allow us to have a better site and patient experience?
Beautiful. Mark, thank you so much. I appreciate it, boss. It's been a pleasure as always.
Weston, pleasure's mine. I really appreciate the invite. So proud of you, what you're doing. You created a great company. You're thriving. So,
Thank you.
man, I look forward to watching you continue to rise.
Thank you.